Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to have a teen services librarian, that's me, reacting to memes about Gen Z, my favorite generation. So let's just get a few things out of the way before we jump into the memes. Number one, I don't know if all of these are actually memes. Like, are all internet posts that someone takes a screenshot of but then like a lot of people talk about, are all of those memes? I don't think they're all memes.
Did I have to Google what are memes? Yes, I did. And nobody knows what a meme is. There's no consensus.
So these are all posts that I found on the internet that are either about Gen Z or by Gen Zers, by Zoomers, that I'm going to be reacting to today. This is in fact a pro-Zoomer video, so I'm not going to be dragging Gen Z. I'm going to tell people who are older, who think that millennials and Gen Z kids are the same generation. We are not.
I actually used to work with someone who is a Zoomer, and I have this dress on it that's like, has hot pink bats on it, and like I have big holes in my ears and stuff, and so at one point, I think she basically called me out for being a grown-up emo kid, and I was like, oh, is it that obvious? And she was just like, yeah. Hello, Gabby, if you're watching this.
Zoomers are the generation after us, and then the generation after Gen Z is Generation Alpha. Gen Z and millennial culture is quite different. It might look similar to you if you're older. There's lots of distinction between the two. I am a millennial. I'm 29 years old, but I work with teens, so everybody that I work for is in Gen Z. And if you're wondering, yes, I did look all of these up on BuzzFeed lists. If you know, you know. Our first meme is by Addison on Twitter, also known as Cool Grandma 98. I hope that means that she thinks she's a grandma, even though she was born in 98. Okay, it says, when people leave my 15-year-old sister on read, she sends them voice memos of her screaming. I'm 100% going to start doing that. Thank you, Cool Grandma 98. Our next one is from Stacy's dad, also known as @GenZBaby_.
I guess it'd be more like Gen Z baby. Not Gen Z baby.
Alright, it says, Gen Z be like, been a long day of spitting on cops and catfishing pedophiles. Time to tuck my stuffed animals into bed and tell them individually why they're perfect and deserve the world. You know, I think Gen Z gets a lot of flack, mostly because they're young, and when you live in a culture that emphasizes youth at all costs, when you get older, you become hostile to the idea of youth in and of itself. So it's like not anything that Gen Z people necessarily do that makes adults hate them. It's just that they're young and therefore adults hate them. Anyway, point being here that Gen Z baby, the account says. I think the cool thing about Gen Z is that they have kind of a split between this more innocent childhood because they are young people, but also they're growing up against the backdrop of like exploding income inequality and the ongoing march of climate change, police brutality, mass incarceration, you know, all this stuff. So they're balancing both of those kind of two competing things, and that is exactly what this meme is talking about. And I love that because Gen Z kids, you guys are idealistic, you hold people accountable, and you are making real change at a young age. Our next meme comes from Paul McKaylin, also known as @OrangePulp. It says, don't fight with Gen Z, you can't win. Once when I was teaching an SAT prep class, I told everyone to quiet down, and one girl just said, haha, okay sweater, because I was wearing a sweater, and every single one laughed at me.
Boy, is this hit hard, close to home.
That's never happened to me before.
I mean, I've never been made fun of by
I think, first of all, teenagers in general are just ruthless. That's part of being that age. You're kind of negotiating boundaries.
I realize now that, like, this sounds very adult, like, well, they're negotiating boundaries.
But anyway, back to the video. Being a teenager is all about kind of brushing up against authority all the time. And also, Gen Z kids are just...
They will go for your throat, dude. Like, they will do not play at all.
So, yeah, this tracks. It's definitely happened to me. If I'm lucky, it will happen to me many more times. I'll have the privilege of being roasted by Gen Z kids in a way that I don't see coming and that, frankly, I don't really understand. But keep on keeping on, kids.
Did I just quote you? Oh god, I get older every minute of this video.
Alright, next one from Vorbit. This is on Tumblr, so this has to be about Gen Z and not from Gen Z, because, like, do you guys, you're not on Tumblr, are you? Is anyone on Tumblr? If someone's on Tumblr, please send me an email and let me know, because I will totally go back to that platform. It says, once in my 6th hour, we were talking about 9/11, and I announced very loudly, more people died in Hurricane Maria than in 9/11, but nobody really cares because you can't use hurricanes to justify imperialism. And then not even 5 seconds later, I yelled, yeehaw my beats. Teachers are so lucky that they get to teach Gen Z kids because they're just so aware of everything that's going on, but also
they're so aware of everything that's going on.
And so it's kind of like a sense of, I think, hopelessness, and that's where that sense of humor comes from. It's kind of like nihilistic and ironic humor, and so you can kind of like have these conversations where in a very short span of time it seems like the tone is shifting a lot, so you're going from like a very serious political statement essentially over to like throwing out slang terms and like joking and stuff like that in a very short amount of time, and it can feel, I think, a little whiplashy and surreal for adults, but for Gen Z that's just the way that they communicate, and they have to, because the world is crazy. They know that there are big, massive structural problems that is out of their control to solve, and they still have to find ways to have a childhood and to have an adolescence. And so both of those things kind of get like mixed into this pot and stirred up together, and then you end up calling out imperialism and yeehaw my beats in 5 seconds. Our next says, being 23 is a cool age.
By the way, 23-year-olds are in fact Gen Z. They are not millennials, okay? Millennials are not going on spring break. We're getting mortgages, or not, probably. Because the ownership of property is basically a dream, a ship that has sailed long ago.
It says, being 23 is a cool age. Feels a lot like 21, but with 2 additional years of failure stapled to your forehead. Unfortunately for the lovely members of Gen Z, maybe the ones who are a little bit older, who are sort of coming into their mid-20s, as in they have probably graduated college if they attended college, and are now kind of like coming into the real world.
A phrase which means nothing because your world is always real.
But they're kind of moving more towards traditional markers of adulthood and realizing like,
This ain't it, fam.
yeah, this is gonna go on for the rest of your life. It's one of the things that adults don't really tell you about. I think maybe because the world used to be a little bit different, and also because people want to keep you innocent and happy for as long as they can. Was Gen Z ever happy? I don't think they were. But yeah, mistakes pile up, failures pile up. You're human, be kind to yourself, it's gonna be totally fine, or society will collapse, and in which case, what's the point of stressing out anyway, right?
Alright, next up we have a piece of my hair. Goodbye.
This is another Tumblr post, I think. From Gen Z Culture is. Alright, it says, Gen Z culture is debating if milk before cereal or vice versa in class. And then having that one kid come in and go, I put bleach before my cereal. And then dabbing as the rest of your class laughs and jokes, same, while your Gen X teacher looks horrified. Again, this is one of those things about Gen Z that like is this weird mix between like childhood and these more serious subjects. It's probably just a result of you guys being raised in the times that we live in. It's like a coping mechanism. But can confirm this is how it goes, and it does freak most adults out. Eventually, though, if you spend enough time around A, teenagers in general, and B, Gen Z kids, you get sort of used to it, because this is just, it's just life. This is just how they do it. All right. Next says, therapist. And what do we say when we feel like this? Me, it be like that sometimes. Therapist, no. So I love these posts for a couple of different reasons. One, because it really do be like that sometimes. And two, I just love that millennials and Zoomers are so open about their mental health and about seeking help for their mental health. If you haven't checked it out yet, the last video that we did, it was called Ask a Therapist, and it's actually a video with a licensed clinical social worker responding to anonymous questions that you guys submitted. So check that out if you haven't already. But this is definitely a hallmark of Gen Z culture that I think is good, and I hope that we will continue to pass along to Gen Alpha after Gen Z. And that is the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. Please email me your favorite memes or posts or whatever about Gen Z. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in our next video. Bye.